So I've gone ahead and labeled the legs and the top drawer. These are distinct enough that I'll know where they go, but I figured I would strip this all down. I really love this bottom drawer with the little dovetails and the decoration. I haven't found any maker's marking, but I'm fairly certain it's I don't know, seems like Eastlake furniture from the late 1800s. It's all what looks to be a very figured walnut. Looks like there was maybe some slots in here long ago. It's a really beautiful, kind of distinct piece. Most of them have their locks still, except for the top one. There's also even some fingerprints where somebody was holding it. Pretty interesting. It seems like it's been maybe rebuilt or reworked on a couple of times here and there. But it's in really great condition. So I'm pretty excited to kind of clean it up and just fix it here and there. This is the runner of the bottom shelf, the kind of caved in piece, and it's got a chip out of it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that, but I'm going to think about it as I kind of move forward. Again, I was hoping for a signature or something, but I really haven't found any. Looks like somebody messed up there, but that's about it. Hopefully I'll find more about it as I go. Same issue on this one. Look at how bent this is. Get that in focus. Look at how bent this thing is. I mean, it's all sorts of bent. Even if it was in there sturdily, which it wasn't, it would have been all sorts of bent just because the metal was weak. So one of the nuts is really stuck in there. I got it up higher by using this bolt and twisting it down slowly to pry it upward. So I got it to here, and I realized there's a lot of glue and goop in there. So I figured I would try out some of my dental tools, which I'm very excited about. It's the most ridiculous thing to be excited about, but I'm very excited about it because you don't get to use stuff like this that often. And why have it if you're not going to use it? So I can see that this nut is certainly going to come out, but it's just taking a little time. It's also got some goop on the bottom there, so I'm just going to keep wriggling it out, slowly but surely, and Hopefully we can get it out of there. It's slowly coming up. I think. Just slowly pushing out. So while these things, I'm trying to get all of these out because, you know, obviously this leg was firmly on, but the others were very loose and came out so easily that I don't really want that happening again. So this nut, because it's flat, it's at the bottom of whatever this hole is, and I'm slowly twisting it, and as I twist it, it pushes the nut upward. Slowly prise it out until it's free. And then hopefully we can just, look at that. Ooh, did go into something. It's a little deeper than you want it to be, but you know, that's at least this is out. So yeah, it kind of went in a little deep, but got it out of there, and I'll clean this out, and then we're gonna try and even all of these up together, and then we'll try and figure out how to put the legs back on. So again, the repair job here is just very dirty, messy. So I'm just trying to clean up that mess as best I can without, you know, too much damage to the actual piece. This is all resin inside of here. I'm trying to get out, so I'll have to, I think that's just a surface finish, a surface scratch, I hope. But yeah, I'm just trying to slowly clean this stuff out so that it'll at least be mostly wood. So I just gotta keep cleaning that out. I'm gonna move the camera so I can actually do this a little better. There we go. There we go. Now it's nice and clean in there. I think that's just a easy surface scratch to get out. Great. Using a scraper, a fairly dull one at that, just to get some of these little bits off where I can. I really just want to have to do as little sanding on this as possible. I think that's got almost all of it off. It's working pretty well. Yeah. Not too bad. I might still try to refine it a little bit, or I'll see what oil does, because this is all scratched up anyway, so I'm gonna have to maybe do a little bit to it, but we'll see what it looks like when it's cleaned up, and then yeah, go from there. So I want to get the legs flat, to sit flat onto here, and some of these are pretty flat, but some are not. So you can see, you see those gaps in there? It needs to be flattened. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scribe around them, and where they are flat, and just try and get them as flat as possible. And that's my next step, with maybe a little hand plane like this, or some chisels, or a combination of the two. Great. Still a little proud on this side here. The flat block, just to make sure it's absolutely flat, because I'm gonna try and dowel this leg in. I think that's going to be stronger and a bit more specific, and I just have to make this super flat so I can make this super straight, and that's the hope. And then we'll do the same for this, and plop it back on and do it for all of them, hopefully. Good. Okay, so I have these flattened, all quite flat and square to the edge here, and now I have them on a flat surface that I flattened and put wedges in just to make exactly sure it was flat and even, and now I'm measuring on all sides to make sure even. It looks like the only it looks like the only misalignment is this is just slightly high. So I'm going to maybe do a little bit of chiseling and sanding more to get this down, and then should be nice and even to the top all the way around. So now that the carcass is flattened, I'm going to move on to the legs. And the legs are kind of funny. One, because a lot of these are similarly just not cut flat, so I need to flatten these. I think, again, they sawed these off or something and just didn't do it flat. I also noticed that the end of the leg, for all of them, is slightly curved out. So this is slightly curving that way, and you can see it more pronounced if we keep these flat and move it around, and you see that this is closer to it than this. So this curves outward this way. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten this side, the attaching side, and I'm going to just make sure that these point outward for just slightly more stability. So it's not just straight up and down, but these flare outward instead of inward, which would make it a little bit tipsier. So I'm gonna start flattening these. Notice that one of the legs has this was cut off and then re-glued, and it's pretty sloppy. What I'll probably do is clean it up and make a decision if I want to keep it that way or just cut it and move it over. I will probably keep this as well. You know, these things, this table is really old, and it's got a lot of character and a lot of times that people have tried to fix it in different ways. And my goal is to make it stable and you know, just clean it up, you know, as much as I can without refinishing or anything like that. But keeping all the character and the age, so I'll probably keep this as is, just clean out the kind of gunky glue that's all over there. But yeah. Just cleaning off this resin. And you can see that the shavings are white instead of brown. So that little bit is just a tiny bit of wood, but most of this is just resin. So the next step in all this is to create a hole that is perfectly straight up and down and perfectly centered as well, which is going to be pretty difficult because it's already got a hole in it, and all these holes are off-center. So I made a little bit of a solution. I'm going to show you how I do that. Okay, so excuse the camera lag. I don't know how to do this that well. I'm not a videographer. But so anyway, so here's this square bit right here, and I'm going to add tape to it. That way I can draw on the square and figure out where the center is. So now I take my handy dandy doweling jig, dowel it, that's what this is called, the dowel it, and I am going to place the 1/2 inch hole right above where that X is. Ba-ba. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to go put this in and align it to here. So I'll show you that. Very straight. And I'm not going to start on the legs yet. I want to do a few other repairs on the body, and I was going to leave this is kind of cracked off here, but I actually see that it's fairly substantial of a break. So if I look over here, this has a nice little curve that someone made, and it goes, if I measure, it goes right to there. So if we do that on this side, I can see there's a big chunk missing. So I'm going to use a little scrap of walnut I have left over from some project or another. Happens to be the same width, but this goes in just slightly. So this is actually the width of the back piece. Actually, it's a little bit thicker than that, just in case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a nice clean spot here on this side to glue to, and I'm going to create a little added piece and glue it, and then sand it or carve it down so that it matches this side. So I'm going to work on that. This is the intact piece right here. So I'm just gonna follow that slope a bit. using a carving knife because this piece is so small that bandsaw would be difficult, and it's hard to clamp up for any normal saw. I probably should have had this longer, cut it on the bandsaw, and then cut it off. But, you know, hindsight and all that. Slowly but surely, just whittling it down. Just so dry fit looks pretty good. I did a dry fit with clamps, even for this tiny little thing, and it seems pretty great. So I'm just going to glue it up using PVA glue, because this stuff won't come undone. We don't want it to come undone. Some stuff we want to come undone, perhaps maybe in the future. And then another version of me is doing this stuff, so we'll use wood glue, hide glue, but for this, we just want this to be. So it seems pretty nice where it's at. And, okay. And I see the glue, the squeeze out in there, so it's all good. And we'll just let that dry overnight, and then we'll get it down to size. I just need to clean this up. Looks about the same to me. Pretty good. Here's a new piece here. Yeah, it's great. This looks like a previous repair that somebody just stapled some old something else in. See that? It's just nasty little nothing. Somebody tried to repair this thing but just didn't do a great job at it. So I'm taking these bits off. Oh, I see. These were somebody who wanted to keep this part on, but see that? But instead of it helping, it just maybe made matters worse. Look at that, it's got staples all through it. All through it. Look at that. We're just gonna take these staples out. And I think I was leaning toward not messing with the feet at all, but it will be far easier to repair the feet while they're detached from the body. So I do think I'm going to repair this. I can either flatten it and add a block and carve it away, or I can do a kind of putty situation, which I think might be a good solution for this. I don't know, I'm going to think on it as I prep the rest of these. Look at that. Cut a piece that big. bit bigger than I need. I think I'm going to trim off quite a bit of it before putting it onto this. I'm not going to use the bandsaw to trim this. It's too small for that. I'd have to get my fingers too close to the blade, but this works great because it's all this all goes along the grain, so I can just chop it off really easily, just a tiny bit of force, and that trims it down pretty quickly. So I let the glue dry overnight and took the clamps off. And it looks pretty good. It got the grain going in the right direction. And now it's time to carve them out. I got 3 of them here that I did. And yeah, tried to get it as best as possible so I could do the least amount of carving. And here we go. Okay, so I fixed the feet, as you can see. It's pretty good. I'll do a little bit of sanding just to clean it up just a little bit more. Obviously, I guess I could have done this on the lathe, but one, it's pretty beat up, so it needs to kind of match that beat upness, and two, I don't have a lathe, so that would make it really difficult. But anyway, that's mostly done. I have to, finish it and match the color to it, but it's walnut. It's the same. Walnut would be nice and dark that way. But now I got to deal with this side. This is the side that attaches to the table, and if you look, well, one, it's pretty messed up. This is the most messed up one. Somebody cut it and then glued it back on, but they're all a little bit messy, and they're also not perpendicular to the leg. So I'm gonna have to flatten these and then drill them as perpendicular, straight, I guess that's parallel as possible, so that it runs the leg. And these legs do have a slight curve to them, just ever so slightly. I have arrows on each of the leg as to where it which direction it kind of curves out at. And what I'll do is I'll position them so that the curve points outward, so that it's the most stable. Because I think that's the purpose, was that it just did a little tiny bit of splay. So we are going to splay the legs out just ever so slightly. Might have been something that just happened over time, but because each one is quite similar, I think it's actually purposeful. So anyway, I'm going to work on flattening this now. Okay, so I got my shooting board out. Shooting board can give me nice flat 90-degree angles. I have my Stanley Bailey number 5. I'm going to put this up to the face here, and see how we do. Okay, so I flattened the top here, and then I made this little jig that's just to, it's basically just a bigger version of this that goes around the leg to hold it, but the sides are very, very straight against that, very perpendicular 90 degrees, so that this, my doweling jig, sits directly straight. And then I have a line that goes very, very straight down into it, and this is sitting flush. So hopefully, as I drill, it should go straight in. And if not, well, then back to the drawing board, I guess. That's wonderful. Very, very straight too. Marvelous. All right, 3 more to go, and then we can glue them on. Glue all over me. So earlier I marked the light splay of the legs and which direction it was splaying, and I've faced that direction that goes out just slightly to the outside corner of every leg, this one as well, so it just slightly curves out. Okay, there it is. Just gonna let that dry overnight, and then I'll flip it over and we'll start doing some finishing work. black walnut that I used is a very good match for this walnut. So no dyeing necessary, just shellac, which will yellow in time and darken as well, but looks good. The legs are back on, and it's standing upright, and it looks really good, nice and straight. I'm just going to do a little bit of work on some of these scratches throughout, and then hopefully it'll be good to go. It seems to cover up some of it. Seems to cover up a little bit of it. I'm going to try it on the legs. This is where the biggest scratches are, on the tabletop here. It's not gonna get everything out, but hopefully it'll get a good amount of it out. It already has, look at that. And I'll just keep going over it a few more times to see how much I can get out of there. It won't hide it, you know, or it won't get rid of it, but it'll hide it a little bit. So the gouges are still there, but it hides it. It adds some, a little bit of color and oil into those crevices. There are a few little issues, like there's a crack right here in one of the bottoms. In this drawer, there's an area, if you can see that, there's an area that has these little grooves cut in, so there's certainly a box here. A couple of dividers right in this area, and it's not important that I add those back in at the moment, and because I own this, I could always make them at some point and add them back in, but I don't think I want them in my use for it, because I'll be using this as a bedside table, and I don't want little dividers. But you know, if I were to sell this or to be restoring it for somebody else, I might build in the dividers. This one is also missing the locking mechanism out of it, which I think I'm gonna just be on the lookout for. And if I find one that I think might fit, I'll add it back in. But yeah, I think that's it. A really nice Eastlake sewing table. I am calling it a sewing table because it has this bucket drawer, which is pretty common on the on the sewing tables of the era. I think it's actually around the 1870s. I thought it was closer to early 1900s, but Eastlake was 1870 to 1890, and it seems like the different aspects of this piece put it at kind of the earlier time of Eastlake furniture. I could totally be wrong about that, but that's kind of what my hunch is telling me. But it looks beautiful. I love that it has the key. It's nice and sturdy, and it'll be great. I think it came out really nicely. I'm excited about it. It was really fun to work on. If you want to continue to watch me make really poor quality videos on YouTube, subscribe now.